Let me start with something that might be uncomfortable for some of us as coaches. If your players consistently make bad decisions in games, it's probably not because the player themselves are selfish or low IQ or uncoachable. And, in some ways, probably like it could be a part of it. But for most of our players, it's because of how we train them. Players play how they are practiced, and most of our practices train execution, not vision. Most players aren't bad decision makers, they are bad perceivers of the game. Basketball is a game of information, truly. Every possession, players are processing what they see: defenders, space, teammates, time, you name it. And they don't make decisions in a vacuum. They make decisions based on what their eyes and their brain are telling them is available, what they see. So if a player doesn't see a help defender, they can't kick it out. If they don't see a gap, they won't attack it. If they don't see their teammate lifting out of the corner, they're not going to make the pass. And a lot of us blame the choice when in reality, the real problem is they might not have been able to see it in the first place. And this framework right here is how basketball has always been played. It starts with perception, not execution. So many of us train the execution aspect of it and disregard the perception action of it. But it starts with the players perceiving something. Before a player ever dribbles, passes, or shoots the ball, they've already taken in information about the floor and the environment around them. And that means that their decision is always limited by what they notice. I'm going to say that again. Their decision is always limited by what they notice. They can only choose from the options that their brain believes exists in that moment in the first place. So execution, how well they shoot it, pass it, or finish, only matters after they've seen the right thing in the first place. And what we know about basketball is it is a fast-paced game. It keeps going up and down and up and down the floor. So if our players don't see it first, no amount of skill can actually save the play that we want them to make. And if we're being honest as coaches, most of what we rep in practice lives right here, the execution. You go back to that last slide, it lives in the execution aspect. It doesn't even go to the perception point of it. The shooting, the footwork, the ball handling, the set plays, all of that is just execution. It's how well a player can perform a movement that we've already decided for them that we want them to do. But almost none of it requires them to read a defender, recognize space, or do any sort of processing about what's happening around them. So we're building, I like to call it a skilled mover and not a skilled decision maker. Okay. This is the biggest mistake that we make as coaches. And I used to make it all the time. We judge decisions and not vision. We judge decisions and not the vision behind it. We say, hey, that was a bad shot. When a lot of times the bad shot is just a bad read. We say that was a bad pass when the player simply never saw like a help defender sitting in the lane. Our players aren't dumb, they're just unaware. And awareness is something that we're supposed to be teaching. It's a part of the process of making better basketball players. Because the hard truth of it is, a lot of our practices just aren't good enough in the perception category. Many of our drills remove perception entirely. We do a lot of on air stuff, one on one, no defenders, no timing, no reads, just memorizing movements for the sake of movement's sake. And it's in those moments that players look skilled. We feel good about ourselves because, we think that we have a really solid shell drill. But you take them into a real game, and in a lot of ways, they can be confused. That's not a talent problem. That could be a practice design problem in a lot of ways. So if a drill doesn't create reads, it doesn't build actual basketball IQ. If a drill doesn't create reads, it doesn't build basketball IQ. So to train perception, you need to have drills that force players to see and react first. That means I think you need to use a lot of 2-on-2, 3-on-3, advantage situations or disadvantage situations for a defense, short clock possessions where you have to fix it. You have to find a solution, create some sort of trigger advantage to get downhill and create a good look late in the clock. Any sort of small sided game. These are the reps that teach players to process information, make decisions under pressure, and actually play the game and not just run the game. Okay. The great thing about this is you don't have to throw out your favorite drills to train perception. I think A lot of what we see within the CLA world today says you have to do these specific drills and these specific drills only. When in reality, you could turn any drill into a thinking drill. Any of your favorite ones that you like to do. You just need to change the rules of the game. Maybe add a help defender, add a second decision that a player has to make, add a scoring constraint, a time limit. Now, players must see and perceive before they execute, before and decide before they execute. Suddenly, the drill isn't a movement drill. We have players seeing before they act. They're reading and processing and deciding all in real time, which is what we want for them. As coaches, we also need to frame the questions that we're asking in the right way. We say, why did you see that? Or why did you do that? Is what a lot of us say, myself included. And we expect an answer like, why did you do that? What's the player's response? Well, I don't know. I thought that was the right choice to make. The better question for us to ask is, what did you see? That simple question can tell me everything. Did the player make a mistake because it was a bad read, or was it just bad execution? If you go back to our framework, did they make the mistake here, or did they make the mistake here? Was it because of what they saw, or because of an execution flaw on their point? Once you know that, you can actually coach it better in a lot of ways. So let's bring it back to this framework that drives everything that we just talked about: perception, decision, execution. If a player can't perceive the defense, the floor, their teammates, their decisions are always going to be limited, and your team's offense and defense are going to be limited. And if the decision is off, no amount of skill or execution is going to fix that. That is why you have to focus training perception first, designing drills that force reads and choices, and only then can we refine our execution. We live here in a lot of ways, when in reality, we should be living here for the majority. Okay. When our practices follow this sequence, players don't just move well, they play smarter, they see the game, they make right reads, and they can execute under pressure a lot better. At the end of the day, your players' basketball IQ is a reflection of the practices that we hold. Our players don't get smarter by us yelling. They're not more aware when we yell at them or we run the same old drills because we've been doing them forever. We get them by designing better reps, giving them better drills that force perception, create real decisions, change the environment, and build the connection between seeing, deciding, and executing. That truly is how we can take a group of skilled movers and turn them into players who actually understand and control the game.